Hey everybody, and welcome back to Table Fellowship. I hope you all had a fantastic 4th of July. I know we did. We had a huge barbecue. We had people over. I smoked some chicken and tri-tip and sausage, and it was a really great time. I'm really thankful that we live in a country where we can worship openly and freely without any fear. So hope you all had a great 4th. I know we did. Happy 4th of July. Let's get into the word before we get into our recipe for the day. Today's section of passage. We're going to be in Matthew chapter 8. We're going to be looking at verses 5 through 13, a little bit longer of a chunk. I'm not going to go into it fully in depth because that'll take forever, but I do want to hit a couple key points on here that really, really opened my eyes to see just truly how powerful God is, as well as He's in the minor details and everything. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So starting in Matthew 8, starting in verse 5, the faith of the centurion. Centurion is a Roman soldier. Roman soldiers were not cool to the Jews in that community. They hated them, beat them, enslaved them. It was bad times, right? But this Roman soldier knew differently. So when he being Jesus, when he had entered Capernaum, a centurion came forward to him, appealing to him, "Lord, my servant is lying paralyzed at home, suffering terribly." Then he being Jesus, then he said to him, "I will come heal him." But the centurion replied, "Lord, I am not worthy to have you come under my roof, but only say the word and my servant will be healed. Oh. For I too am a man under authority with soldiers under me, and I say to one, go, and he goes, and another, come, and he comes, and to my servant, do this, and he does it." And when Jesus heard this, he marveled and said to those who followed him, "Truly I tell you, no one in Israel have I found such faith. I tell you, many will come from the east and the west to recline at a table with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven, while the sons of the kingdom will be thrown into the outer darkness, in the place where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth." And to the centurion Jesus said, "Go, let it be done for you as you have believed." And the servant was healed at that very moment. So a couple things that I want to just touch on this really quick that really blew my mind, right? The first in verse 8, but the centurion replied, "Lord, I am not worthy to have you come under my roof," meaning enter my home, right? "But only say the word and my servant will be healed." So this centurion knew something about the Jewish tradition, the Jewish culture. For a Jewish man to enter the home of a Gentile or a non-Jewish person, they would become unclean. So the centurion goes, "Lord, you can't come into my home. It would make you unclean." See, Jesus was the perfect spotless lamb for us as a sacrifice. He couldn't have entered this Roman soldier's home because it would have made him unclean, but he remained sinless and perfect. So that's just a little piece of detail that I've probably read this story a million times, and that never clicked to me until recently, that the Roman soldier knew he couldn't enter the home. Next being the Roman soldier's faith, "But only say the word and my servant will be healed." Wow. Jesus himself marveled at his faith. It says in verse 10, but when Jesus heard this, he marveled and said to those who follow him, "Truly I say to you, no one in Israel have I found such faith." The Bible says that Jesus only marveled twice. It was in this situation and then a situation a few chapters later where his disciples had a lack of faith in Jesus, and he marveled at their lack of faith. So it's really interesting to me. But Jesus knew, obviously he knew the power of God, and he knew the being also God, that he could heal this man from afar, right? And so he does. He does. The power of God is so big and so powerful and so good that he heals this servant of the centurion from afar. It says in verse 13, "Go and let it be done for you as you have believed." And the servant was healed at this very moment. Gosh, it's so encouraging and so awe-inspiring to see how big our God is, yet he's in the minute details of prompting the servant to not let Jesus go into his home. Not that Jesus would have, but making it very clear that the centurion knew that he couldn't, but then also being able to stand from afar, from however far it was, and heal the servant from wherever. So it's something that encourages me, and I hope it encourages you as well. So some food for thought for you. Now let's cook some food. We're gonna make French dip in the crock pot. Heidi, this one's for you. First thing we're going to do is prep the beef. I have here just under 3-pound boneless chuck roast. You can use any type of roast you like. This is what I had in the freezer, so I'm going to use that. This is going to feed my husband and I for a couple sandwiches plus some leftovers. If you have a bigger family, use a bigger size roast, and you're just going to add more ingredients. Pretty straightforward. I love how easy this dish is, because from start to finish, aside from the time where it's in the crock pot, it comes together in 15 minutes or so. So once you get that meat prepped and you set it aside, we're going to thinly slice some onion and chop up some garlic. Sweet. Once you have that prep, what you're going to do is you're going to get about 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, or I'm doing coconut aminos. You're going to do 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. I heard this saying one time that the 3 hardest things to say in the world were, I'm sorry, I was wrong, and Worcestershire sauce. Anyways, you're gonna get that. You're gonna get some garlic powder, onion powder, salt, pepper, and then beef bone broth, which I have in my fridge right now. Next step we're gonna do is we're going to sear this beef until it is nice, has a nice crust on it. Side note, I make my own poultry bone broth, but when it's a beef dish, I like to use beef broth. And I haven't made that yet. That's on my to-do list to learn how to make. So my go-to is kettle and fire bone broth. Oh my gosh, guys, this stuff is so good. It's made from grass-fed, grass-finished cows. Pure organic ingredients. This is the way to go if you can't or don't know how to make your own broth, which I will do a video on how to make broth soon too. But this stuff here, go to. Fantastic. Kettle fire. Sponsor me. First things first, we got to get the pan ripping hot. I'm going to use my Hexclad skillet. I love these things. I saw them all over online. I was like, you know what, I'm going to buy one and try it. Worth the hype. Hexclad. Freaking fantastic. I'll link it in the description, whatever. Anyways, we're gonna let that get ripping hot, and then I'm gonna use avocado oil to sear my beef. Avocado oil has a really, really high, good sear smoke point. So that's why it's really good to sear things in. We are going to let this thing sear on each side for like 3 to 5 minutes. You just want to get a good crust on it. So you can skip this step if you are in a rush for time. You don't have to do the searing. But the searing does do though is help lock in those juices, because even though you're doing this in the crock pot, believe it or not, you can still dry things out of the crock pot. So if you have the time to sear it, then sear it. If don't, get it seasoned up and then just throw it in the crock pot. So this is how easy this recipe is, guys. Now that you seared the meat's going to go in the crock pot, as well as the broth. We're going to put enough broth in to go about halfway up the meat or so. The seasonings, the Worcestershire, the soy sauce, or coconut aminos, the onions, and the garlic, and then we set it on low and slow for 6 to 8 hours, or you could do on high for 4 to 6 hours. Give it a good little mix. The reason we add those seasonings into the broth as well is because we want the broth to be seasoned, not just the meat. That's going to help the meat to retain all of its flavor, and it's going to help that broth have flavor when we dip it in there later in the au jus, right? We're creating that au jus flavor. A lot of the mistake I see people make with when they want to make French dips is they just season the meat up, they sear it up, they put it in the crock pot, and they put beef broth in there, and they're like, that's it, that's good. That's going to be really bland. It's going to be really, really bland. So season as you go. You can really do whatever seasonings you like. You could add ranch powder, you could add Italian seasoning, whatnot. I just love the flavor of the soy sauce and the Worcestershire sauce in there, as well as garlic and onion powder go in pretty much every one of my dishes. So there's that. The last thing I'm going to put in here is a couple sprigs of rosemary, because I think that adds a really nice little earthy freshness to this that I don't see other French dips do. So if you have rosemary, add it. If you don't, leave it out. Dink, dink. See you guys in 7 hours. Bye. Once that roast is done, you're going to slice your bread up. We like ciabatta bread, but you can use whatever bread you like French rolls or hoagies or whatever. Slice it up, and then you're going to get it toasting in the broiler or in the toaster. Once that is toasting, you can take out your roast, get it chopped or sliced however you like. After you chop and slice it, I like to add it to a bowl and then add about 1/4 cup of the au jus just to help keep some of that moisture and flavor in there. As always, thanks for joining. Remember to share your food with others. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a like, a subscribe, and a follow. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I've noticed that a lot more people are watching that aren't subscribers, so thank you so much for watching the video. Now hit me a subscribe and a follow. Help me get this page going and started. I appreciate you all. Enjoy your French dip. Thanks for watching.